I'm good.
Tina Williams live stream on the day for local pay, so I'll pull that later.
Oh, Tina Williams, okay. Are we ready?
I think so. I think we're all good.
All right, thank you for being here this afternoon. I believe Brittany has shared with you a updated press release concerning the events of yesterday evening. I wanted to share some comments on this completely unnecessary, unfortunate tragedy for our community. Yesterday evening, March the 2nd, at 7:18 p.m., Lexington police officers and Lexington firefighters were dispatched to the 500 block of Burgess Street here in the city of Lexington. Now, the 911 caller originally mentioned that there was smoke in the apartment. However, that caller provided additional information to responding personnel that there was blood on the steps and a gun in the parking lot, to which it changes our response. Based on that, our officers also went en route and arrived on the scene. Due to the nature of the information that there was a likelihood of a crime, it was our officers that approached this apartment. It was our officers that had to force entry into the apartment. As the officers went into the apartment, they were immediately encountered smoke. They made their way through the apartment to ascertain what was going on, and they saw two adults in the apartment with obvious traumatic injuries. And as they continued through that apartment, they came upon and discovered a small child, approximately three years of age, suffering from obvious traumatic, life-threatening injuries. At that point, our officers quickly responded, grabbed that young child, and ran out the door, and ran up the street to where Lexington firefighters were sitting there waiting. They immediately started rendering first aid. Chief Paul Jarrett's here today, and we thank them for their response and them being there. They assisted with rendering aid to that sweet child until EMS arrived. We were able to determine, or EMS determined, that the two males in the apartment, they declared him deceased on the scene. The small child was transferred to North Carolina Baptist Medical Center in Winston-Salem with life-threatening injuries. So we have been able to make an arrest. We got led to the arrest of Brian Keith Moses, age 54, of Winston-Salem. We had information that he was a suspect. Our investigators went to the area of Yarborough Avenue in Winston-Salem, where we were able to observe in the driveway a vehicle that matched the description that a Burgess Street resident had given us. Based on that, we contacted Winston-Salem Police Department, and they quickly assisted us in the matter as we applied for a search warrant and kept the investigation going on there on Yarborough Avenue. They also assisted on the service of the search warrant and encountered Mr. Moses, and where he was taken into custody without incident. Mr. Moses was then transported back to Lexington Police Department, where we are still continuing our investigation. Mr. Moses is a 54-year-old male from Winston-Salem. He's being charged with 2 counts of murder, arson, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and robbery with a dangerous weapon, based on us being able to ascertain that cash money was taken from the apartment. The 2 adult victims, one, the resident of the apartment, Lionel Coker. He's a 56-year-old male of the Burgess Street address. He's also the grandfather of the child victim. The second adult victim is Robert Lee Stowe, 61-year-old male of Winston-Salem. As for the child victim, I'm not going to release any further information on her, as at this time the family's still beside her bedside, watching over that sweet little girl. One of the things I like to also do is I like to thank the fire department, EMS, and I like to thank Winston-Salem Police Department, and also the district attorney's office, who they've had someone on the ground with us on the scene and throughout this investigation as we are partnering together to put together the best case for prosecution. I would like to also thank the residents there on Burgess Street for what they experienced, for their cooperation and the information that our investigators were able to build off of, which was very important. I'd like to thank our officers for their professional response, and our sincere thoughts and prayers go out to all the families and to the residents that experienced that in that immediate area. At this time, I don't have anything else to offer. I will entertain a few questions.
Chief, I know you said you didn't want to get into too many details of the child, but can you give any update on her status and condition?
I cannot. I can tell you this: it is a very serious, life-threatening injury. So I just ask that our thoughts and prayers continue to stay with them as their family clinging to hope by her bedside. Yes.
No, I know that there was a gun found and mentioned by the 911 caller.
Yes.
We've all been by the scene. We've seen the blood on the front steps. Do we know how the 2 victims died? Is it in fact by gunshot wounds or by something else?
I would tell you that there was a lot of injuries on the adult victims. It would be premature for me to state exactly what injury led to their being killed.
But injuries sustained other than a gunshot wound?
Yes, yes.
What is the connection, or do you know yet, between the suspect and the 2 victims?
Very good question. They are not, it's not unknown. They were acquaintances. Yeah, from what we're learning, it wasn't necessarily uncommon for the suspect to be there. We're still investigating everything that led up to this, but this was not a random act at all. And we're grateful we were able to get the suspect in custody in such a timely manner.
Was the grandchild a resident at the place, or was she just there with the grandfather? Is that unclear at this time?
The information we have right now, she was visiting her grandpa.
And there's no motive or anything like this. Can you give any insight into what may have led up to this?
Well, in terms of motive, I'll say this. There's nothing that can make this make sense. But in terms of motive, that would be better discussed with the district attorney's office and our investigators as we prepare this for prosecution. That would be the proper way to do that.
You said the suspect had already had a previous criminal history or background, is that correct?
No, I did not say that.
Or what was his other charge?
Yes, he has been charged with 2 counts of murder, arson, possession of a firearm by a felon, and robbery with a dangerous weapon for this incident.
What were his possession by felons? So what were his previous?
That I cannot get into. That would be something for court. For me to answer that question, I had to speak to his criminal history, and that would not be appropriate for me to do.
I know you said there's nothing that makes this make sense. It's something that a lot of people are talking about, not something that you see in Lexington or really in the Triad. I wonder if you can speak to just how this kind of shakes you, and what can you tell people to maybe make them feel a little bit better tonight?
Well, you know, this is an example of a senseless violence that at this point some of the reasons behind it are unknown. But one of the things I want to highlight, number one, and is to think about the families here. We have families of multiple victims. And quite frankly, we got families of a suspect that's in custody. And we have the first responders. But I don't want to overlook the fact of how important coming together it is, how important that is. I mean, when you think about collaboration, you think, all right, we're Lexington police officers, yeah, but you know, our job is to put the pieces together. And it's the community and a lot of other players around the table that provide those pieces. And we're very grateful for the residents. That's the reason why I've always said, you know, no information is too little. Give us a piece. And that is a, you know, I'm proud of our officers. I'm proud of our residents that helped. It's kind of odd to talk about pride during such a tragic moment, but our community responded, our officers responded. Our collaboration with other law enforcement agencies and public safety was on display. And we have great investigators and officers in their own right. But when you put that with others, with the team that other police departments have around here and the district attorney's office, we can make a lot of good things happen.
And are there any other people of interest at this point, or do you think Mr. Moses is the only person?
At this point, we feel like we have the only suspect in custody.
The officers who responded to the scene, I mean, in all accounts, it sounds like a very harrowing scene. Have you spoken to them? How are they doing after witnessing this sort of kind of unique and tragic accident?
I appreciate you asking that question, and yes, I have spoken with them. And you know, doing this job over a period of time, you encounter things that the average person does not encounter. And there's some things that's bothersome. And so we are working with them. They will definitely be in our care. This is something that does kind of weigh on you. It's a high stressful situation. That goes without saying, but I appreciate you asking the question because we take it serious too.
Anything else we should have asked you, or anything else on before we get going?
I don't believe so. Brittany, is there anything else we need to add? All right, she's got an updated press release, and any other information that may come to light will be done strictly by press release. All right, thank you.
Thank